Hey guys, this is gonna be like two videos in one. I wanted to talk about Hidden Blade, as in what's unique about this unique series that I'm doing, but also quickly I'll talk about the build. So first I'm gonna talk about Hidden Blade. I have done a video about this 10 weeks ago, which is like 3 years ago. I'm gonna talk about what changed, how people are currently doing Hidden Blade, and then talk about the build that I was doing, which is pretty much just pure cold version of Hidden Blade. Right, so the Hidden Blade, the only thing that changed this league was that it doesn't use cooldown anymore. So cooldown reduction items do not work anymore. Instead of 0.5 second cooldown, it is now a trigger rate, which essentially means that you can dual wield Hidden Blades and proc more blades from each of the weapon. However, it also means that cooldown reduction does not change it, so you're always gonna have only 2 procs per second per weapon. And the Unseen Strike is an attack projectile. By default, it just shoots one projectile. If you use greater multiple projectiles or anything that isn't volley, that adds extra projectiles, it will shoot in a circle around you. It does target enemies, so one of the main projectile will target the enemy. If you use like GMP, it will shoot other projectiles in a circle around you. But if you use volley, the main projectile will target the enemy, and the rest of the projectile will also fly towards that enemy. And that is why I am using greater volley, because I want all the projectiles to go in a straight line rather than behind me, because behind me usually there are no enemies. I'm just rushing forward, and then you just want to kind of wipe all the enemies out. Return projectile also works pretty well. DPS wise, I think in theory it is the best DPS for the projectiles because it gives 39% more DPS. I need to clarify, the returning projectiles, only one per proc can hit. So normally when you shoot like 5 projectiles in front of you, only one of them can hit a single enemy. Against the boss, only one of them gonna hit. They do not shotgun. The same goes with the returning projectiles. Only one of them gonna hit the same target. If you cannot shotgun. Now the Hidden Blade itself has pretty low base physical damage, so it's really hard to scale its damage to like good amount. Usually if you see Hidden Blade build and you think that it's a good build, it's usually very expensive, or it's actually not using Hidden Blade as a main damage. So if you look at the PoE Ninja, what people are playing with the Hidden Blade, most people you're gonna see are using Corrupting Fever and Reap. So they use Hidden Blade with as many projectiles as possible, and then the returning projectiles, so that it just hits the same target as many times as possible, and then it just applies Corrupting Fever. They do use like a Reap because we want to refresh the Corrupting Fever rather than recast it manually. I'm not sure how it feels in practice, but that's one of the things that people are doing, using Hidden Blade to apply Corrupting Fever essentially. I forgot to record that Prismatic Burst actually works, but it shouldn't, because Prismatic Burst should not work with the triggered attacks. But it does currently, so it may be fixed in the future. The other thing you can do, some people play it with Mjolnir, and that's what I did 10 leagues ago when I used the Hidden Blade. I used Mjolnir in one hand and Hidden Blade in the other hand, because back then you could only use one Hidden Blade, they did not stack. It would alternate the weapons if you only use one of them and have like Mjolnir in the other hand. It will, each time it procs, it will alternate the weapon. So one of the times it will use the Hidden Blade, the other times it is gonna use Mjolnir. And if it uses Mjolnir, it's gonna proc the lightning spells inside the Mjolnir. So that's another thing that you could do. Although I don't think that it's gonna be very effective unless it's like very high budget, maybe with the Rhiannon prototype. And then the other thing, you could try to scale Hidden Blade's Unseen Strike damage as its own. You could attempt to do poison, you could maybe do bleed, although I have doubts about bleed. And then you could use either a visual stacking. Things like Headhunter or like Soul Eater not gonna benefit a lot from this, because attack speed does not affect the proc rate. You may actually have 2 different setups on weapon swap. One weapon swap Hidden Blade for clear speed, and then swap into other weapon set that has fewer projectiles but more single target focus, because like shooting multiple projectiles at one target doesn't increase your single target DPS. So ideally you I guess even want to replace greater volley for something else, but that's also expensive. The Hidden Blade, I bought it for 35C each, and now they are like almost 100 here each. And I think they don't really work on a lower budget. My budget for this build was like around 4 divines. I had about Poison Hidden Blade like from many leagues ago, people were doing that. and I haven't really personally seen like a good build that wasn't like super expensive. So I think most hidden blade builds that are good, that can do bosses, are gonna be very expensive. Like I'm talking 50, 100 divines at least. A good way of getting damage cheaply sort of is like a visual stacking, because you don't need a 6 link. So you can use the replica Shroud of Lightness, I believe it's called, with 6 visual sockets, and then stack as many visuals. Especially double corrupted visuals can roll 6 damage modifiers, but you would be forced to do like multi-element build, which can still work just fine, especially with the elemental mastery, which has 25% chance to invert monster resistances. You could probably maybe try to do Eternity Shroud and stack Shaper or Elder items. Either Eternity Shroud or Replica Eternity Shroud and stack Shaper or Elder items, and that way to get like extra heals or physical as extra heals, but I'm not sure if that's actually worth it. That could also be like very expensive. Another thing that I used with Hidden Blade, I actually used it for the minion build. There is an item called Iron Mass, which I use for summoning skeletons. The Iron Mass requires you to hit with this Iron Mass sword to hit the enemies to proc its effect. So if you just chuck in Hidden Blade, you get permanent phasing, and then you alternate weapons, and you just permanently activate this without actually putting yourself in danger by being melee or using anything else. So this actually worked really well for Iron Mass, Hidden Blade. Now, I guess the trick is that you need to be phasing. There are a couple ways of phasing, I guess. You can use the phasing flask and then make sure that you generate the flash charges quickly enough. You can also be Raider. Raider just straight up gets phasing, and Raider could also work for multi-elements because it does give multi-exposure, but you don't really benefit all that much because Onslaught doesn't give you that like damage, it just gives you movement speed, and what's the point of moving fast if you cannot kill rare enemies fast? You could also like be Deadeye and or Pathfinder and then steal phasing with the Forbidden Jewels, which would be very expensive as well. Or you could also be Scion, which is what I'm doing. So Scion, Raider also just straight up gets phasing. So basically here's the list of why I think Scion better than other classes for this. First of all, phasing, so you don't need to worry about blast sustain. Although you can actually even use phase run on left click, for example, with like increased duration. Scion, because you get phasing, you get frenzy charge generation, you get onslaught on maximum frenzies. By the way, you can get frenzy on kill with the blood rage, very easy. You don't need to worry about hitting rare or unique to get the frenzy charge. You get extra movement speed, you get spell suppression, and you can also get power charge generation by picking Assassin. So this is a pure cold build. I still have not replaced the gloves. I'm level 87, but I'm quitting the build because I simply cannot really deal with tougher rare enemies or syndicate in tier 14 plus maps. I can clear just fine, but as soon as I encounter like expeditions, and I'm gonna add some clips of me struggling killing expedition or killing like syndicate or killing map bosses, the build really doesn't really work very well on a smaller budget. Like I said, this is around 4 divines budget, and this isn't even a very glass cannon build because I do have cap spell suppression, and look at my life pool, 4.6k, and I feel like this build only works well as a glass cannon build. You want to go full damage, you want to like freeze enemies, you basically want to kill enemies before they hit you. And as a cheap option, I am using Utula Sanger. I really like this body armor, so it's very easy for me to get good items that I want that normally don't have life, but I still get a lot of life by using this. So I'm using Taming ring, and then the Pandemonium gives a lot of damage. I also catalysted with elemental damage modifiers, Catalyst, the Taming, and the Pandemonius. And then Circle of Fear for Held of Ice also does not have life modifier. The belt also doesn't have life modifier for me. I got elemental damage of attack skills and then as much resistances as I could. The gloves currently full conversion because that's my conversion, but you can get full conversion by picking up the conversion, the cold mastery, and then getting gloves with the implicit cold conversion from the, I believe, Eater of Worlds, and then bench crafting or unveiling an extra physical converted to cold. Replace those gloves, get Intimidate on hit as well on the gloves, like Searing Exile implicit, and then get more resistances or accuracy as well. And I'm also using Bubonic Trail because it goes really well with this body armor because Bubonic does not have life modifier. Tecrod's Gaze also gives a lot of crit chance and crit multi when you dual wield. I actually don't have enough moderate side jewels to get a full benefit of Tecrod's Gaze. Oh, and Heatshiver. It's a bit a bait using Heatshiver. If you look at the PUB, it's like 483,000 DPS per blade. Actually, it is one blade does more damage than the other one. So, for example, if you look at these numbers, one blade hits for 461k and the other one 411,000. So combined it's like almost less than a million, and with optimization you could get over a million. However, this is with the frozen checked. Without the frozen checked, it's a lot less. And also you notice I have a custom modifier because the path for building does not calculate automatically returning projectiles. If you're using returning projectiles, it is essentially a 39% more DPS if the returning projectile hit the target. So it's not a real DPS number because you can't really, with this kind of damage, you cannot really freeze bigger targets all the time. So yeah, I don't know if anyone would want to copy this build, but I will leave path for building import code in the video description. Oh, I am also using like Cold Snap with the Bone Chill and the Unbound Ailments just to increase my damage just a bit more. If I enable this, you can see the damage goes up just a bit more, pretty much 1 million DPS. I was actually considering like weapon swapping into Rakiata's Dance Sword and using Spectral Pro, and that could be an option. You could swap that, but then you completely lose DPS from the hidden blade, so I'm not sure if that's worth it. So yeah, that is pretty much it for this video. I already have my next build plan. It's gonna be Divine Art Totems. I did that I believe 3 or 4 weeks ago, but I'm doing it a bit different version, and we'll see how that's gonna turn out. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.